Hello everyone, today I'm going to be sharing another family recipe. I'm going to be making my grandma's Chinese barbecue ribs. My grandma would often make these ribs when she had out-of-town guests or relatives come in, and that was pretty much the only time she made them. A funny story about these ribs is whenever my great-uncle Chuck came over to my grandma's house and had these ribs, he would never eat his ribs clean. And then once he left, my grandpa would really complain because he would only eat like half the meat on the ribs, and he was really mad that he would never eat them clean and that he was always throwing out half the ribs. And then what's really funny is on the other side, my Auntie Haru, she would literally eat her ribs like a vulture. They would be picked clean and they'd practically be shiny, but she would eat them that clean. This is a super easy and super delicious recipe, so let's just go ahead and get started now. We're gonna need 2 cups of sugar, half a cup of ketchup, 3 tablespoons of salt, 3 tablespoons hoisin sauce, and 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. To make our sauce, we're just gonna add all of our ingredients to a bowl and whisk them all together. And our sauce is going to be put on these 2 racks of ribs on a foil-lined baking sheet. Now I'm gonna roast our ribs at 350 degrees for around an hour, and halfway through, which is at the half-hour mark, I'm just gonna go ahead and flip them. Now while our ribs are roasting in the oven, I'm gonna be making some of my grandma's green beans. We're gonna need some plain vegetable oil just to cook them in, as well as some sherry for flavor, as well as garlic powder, soy sauce, and also a little bit of sesame oil just to add a kick of sesame flavor. We're just gonna go ahead and add in some vegetable oil for our pan while it's heating up. Our pan is nice and hot now, so we're just gonna toss in our green beans. And now we're just gonna give them a quick toss. And we're just gonna cook our green beans for a few minutes before we add our other flavorings. Now we're just going to add a ton of garlic powder to our green beans. That is going to be key. And we're just going to add in a little bit of sesame oil for a little bit of flavor. About that should be good. And we're just going to mix this really quick. Now we're just going to add a little bit of sherry to our green beans. And now we're going to add around the same amount of soy sauce as sherry. And now we're just going to place our steamer lid on top of our green beans, and we're going to let it steam for a little bit. I just took our lid off, and the way you can tell that the green beans are ready to have the lid taken off is when they start to feel a little bit tender. So now I'm just going to continue to cook this until most of our liquid evaporates, and then our green beans are going to start caramelizing. The green beans are now cooked, and I took most of them out of the pan, and I'm going to be making a little bit of a modification to our green beans. I'm just going to be adding a little bit of hot oil to them. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a very little bit, almost like a pinch of just some of the seeds and oil. I'm just going to toss it in there, and then I'm just going to combine these into our green beans. And this is just going to be a modification, but I think this is going to make them taste really good. These are the rest of the green beans that were cooked without the hot oil, and the whole reason I did that is because my family isn't really that big of a fan of hot oil. Wow, that's some perfect timing. Right as I finished the green beans, our ribs came out of the oven, and now we're just gonna flip it over and bake it in the oven for another half an hour. I just took our ribs out of the oven, and there was a ton of fat remaining on the tray, probably about a couple inches high, so I made sure to skim pretty much all of it off, because that will dilute our sauce. And now we're just going to apply pretty much most of our sauce on the first side of our ribs. Now we're just going to broil our ribs for a few minutes until it gets nice and caramelized. I just finished broiling our ribs, and I did it for around 2 minutes. Now I'm just gonna flip over our ribs and repeat the process, covering them in sauce and then broiling it for another 2 minutes, and I'll see you when it's done. I just took our ribs out of the oven for the last time, and I slathered it with just a little bit more sauce on the pan, and now they're ready to eat. So now I'm just gonna sit down and have our meal. Alright, it's time to eat now, and I can't wait because everything looks so delicious. The green beans look nice and charred, and I just love the looks of the ribs. They look super caramelized and super yummy, so let's just go ahead and dig in. I'm gonna start by trying our green beans. Let's just give them a taste. Wow, those green beans are fantastic. They're super tender, and I just love the earthiness that you kind of get from the char, because that earthiness comes from the soy sauce, which got charred on it, and that just tastes super good. And I also love the garlic powder, and the hot oil also adds a nice mild spiciness and ginger flavor, and I love the sherry. It adds a nice tang to this. Wow, these green beans are amazing. Now let's go ahead and dig into our ribs. I've definitely been waiting a long time for these. Can't wait. Wow, I just love the ribs. The sauce really got nice and caramelized, and it's nice and wonderfully salty and a little bit sweet, and it's nice and tangy from all the ketchup in there. Wow, these are so good. They also got a little bit charred. Wow, they're just super, super yummy. Alright, let's go ahead and try our steamed rice as well. I put a little bit of sauce on there, and I'm sure it's gonna be absolutely amazing. Wow, our steamed rice is amazing. I just made it earlier before the video, and it turned out really well. It's nice and chewy and has the perfect balance of everything in it, and I just love the sauce. It just goes really well with the rice, and it's just super warm and super comforting. Wow, this was just seriously a super delicious meal. Our green beans got a 9 out of 10. They're just super spot on. I definitely love the addition of the hot oil. It just gave it a nice ginger flavor, which was in the hot oil, and it just went really well with those green beans. Wow, the ribs were super delicious, and I loved them. They get a 9 out of 10. They're super juicy, and I just love the sauce. It is super delicious, and it is really amazing. You definitely gotta try it out. Wow, I just had a super delicious meal, and this was a lot of fun. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure if you did to give it a like, and also make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.